Hello, my name is John. Welcome back to Circle One.
Hi, I'm Hunter. I am a videographer, kind of freelancer, editor, and I also stream on the side.
Hi, my name is Amanda Dufresne. I'm a creative streamer on Twitch, and yeah.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tygre. I am a singer-songwriter that also streams music on Twitch.
Awesome. Well, I am extremely excited to have you all here with us today for many reasons, but one of those reasons is that I have just made a foray into the world of live streaming, and I have no idea what I'm doing. So to be surrounded by three experienced live streamers is a very nice feeling, and I'm really excited to talk to you a little bit about your experiences with live streaming. But first, as is traditional, a little bit of an introduction to the show. My name is John Swiston, and I founded a business systems integration firm called Oxesis a couple years ago. We help small businesses integrate not only their technology systems, but also their creative systems and their operational systems. Our firm delivers service in a bit of a unique way in that we engage with a number of independent contractors on a recurring basis. So rather than kind of piecemeal independent contractors, it's like we got a group of folks that we try to work with on an ongoing basis. And one of the reasons we've chosen to do that is I think we're playing a bet. And that bet is that the future of work will include more people who are their own boss, who work when they want, how they want, on what they want, from where they want, etc. And so I think the folks joining us today are maybe a fantastic example of that phenomena or trend in motion. Would you guys agree? What do you think?
I think I would agree greatly.
Awesome. It sounds like there's a lot of folks on Twitch who are able to, at least make somewhat of a living, or sometimes a great living, and kind of do all the things I mentioned: be their own boss, work where they want, how they want, etc.
Yeah,
So,
oh,
yeah.
yeah. It depends from person to person. It could be volatile, but it's very lucrative. So yeah, it's interesting stuff.
Awesome, awesome. Well, the name of the show, Circle One, also ties into things. We were talking about the name of the show, and our thought is that the future of working life is changing and changing rapidly, but there's still a lot of good conceptions and things there in our ideas about traditional working life. So instead of square one, which is taking a project and scrapping it entirely because it's no good, we thought working life is changing, but maybe it's just the shape. Circle One. So, welcome to Circle One. I'd like to kick things off by again turning it over to our guests, and maybe Jordan, we'll start with you again. Would you mind telling our guests at home a little bit more about yourself, your background, your work, and your day to day?
Sure. So I have a pretty strong background in video production. I have my degree in it. And I just love being creative with video editing, anything like that. I started off on YouTube a long time ago, just kind of testing the waters and trying things out. And back then, I had no experience with either video production, editing, anything like that. So jumping into it was kind of like jumping straight into the deep end and looking up hours upon hours of videos on how to actually use these programs to make the videos. And that kind of sparked a passion for me. So it never really went away. And recently, about like half a year ago, is when kind of jumped into live streaming. And it's definitely a different feel from what I was used to, but it has its big ups, and every now and then, of course, it has its downs. And yeah, so I'm doing kind of like freelance stuff professionally at the moment, trying to make the most of being stuck indoors as well by
Mm-hmm.
learning new skills. And I recently started taking up using Blender and 3D modeling and stuff like that. I'm always looking to make it so I have more skills in my repertoire, and being stagnant is just I'm not me.
I hear ya. You're a busy guy. It's been cool to kind of follow what you've been up to over the past few months. So, thanks for joining us. I'd
Yeah,
like to
absolutely.
open up the discussion a bit more once we hear from all of you. So excited to hear a bit more about your day to day, Jordan, and maybe your thoughts on Twitch.
Yeah, so depending on what day it is, I kind of usually try to plan out my schedule, but I always set aside a certain amount of time to learning something new every day. So for the last few weeks, it has been learning Blender, learning the different uh, techniques in the program itself, and it's very exciting when you first learn a new program, at least for me, because it's like there are so many different ways you can do a single thing, and just trying out a different approach to something that could end up helping you down the line
Mm-hmm.
when you don't have the choice between the two things. That's what I'm kind of like looking to iron out. Something that I'm trying to test the waters in this program, really push it to the limit, and then unfortunately, with new programs, it can be overwhelming at times. So I find like I need to take a break if I get frustrated, or I'm like, no, no, I need to take a breather. Um, I'll usually be like, okay, well, 5 more minutes because I think this will work, and I'll try that out. And then if
Yeah.
it doesn't work, I'll be like, okay, no, I need some time. So mainly trying to better myself, and or rather better my technological skills and stuff like that. Being on social media is something that I try to do. I'm not the best at it at times. Checking my emails and doing any work that I have set for the next week or so. And that's usually what my day looks like. And I cook quite a bit. Like I spend at least
Awesome.
an hour or so cooking a lot.
He's
Awesome. Awesome.
whenever him and I chat, he's always cooking. He
Oh
just puts me on his like puts me on his phone, and then he's just cooking all the time.
yeah. Yep.
Good, good. Oh, it's great. Sounds like you're real busy and doing lots of enjoyable things, including some work and hobby. Awesome.
Yeah.
Moving on, we've got Amanda. Perhaps you could fill the folks in at home about yourself, your background, and your day to day.
Right. So I'm Amanda, as you know, and I actually stream full time on Twitch. I have been on there for coming up to 5 years now, and I have been an independent artist for a little longer than that. Like I started traveling to conventions and selling my art. And when I started on Twitch, I thought that, it was just going to be another platform like my Instagram, like my Facebook, like everything else we all got, and
Mm-hmm.
just another way to stay in touch. But what I thought was interesting about Twitch was it was a live time. I can meet people um, in real life, IRL, if you hear us throw that around, in real life. I know you guys are people of the internet, but just throwing it out there.
I forgot we had to. We had to explain what it
You
is.
have to tell me that one, so thank
So
you.
IRL
Yeah.
means in real life. So by going out and meeting people face to face, I thought being on Twitch was a good way, more than just posting a picture and saying, hey, thanks for that, or liking a comment. It was a way that I could kind of personalize these relationships that I was meeting. And I didn't think that I would meet new people. I didn't think that Twitch was going to open up this whole entire world that is completely dependent on my business and livelihood today. I
Mm-hmm.
thought I was just on there starting another social media that I just had to keep up with, And it started very, very small for me as well. I had nothing. I had a broken computer and a cell phone that I just happened to get decent internet to be able to be on there. I don't know why any of you started following me or commenting or liking, because I watched some of my old videos and I was
Oh
like,
yeah.
holy Toledo's. It sounds like I was in a fishbowl in a dark, dingy basement. Like maybe they were watching because they thought it would turn into a creepypasta. I'm unsure. Over time and with the love from that community, I was able to basically put everything that I got from it back into my stream. And now I've got a double monitor. I've got like this amazing camera and, fancy keyboards, this cool mic. And I was able to start with nothing and grow and continue to do my art, continue to and just dial back a day job to doing this full time. Started streaming once a week, all the way up to streaming 5 to 6 days a week.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's been a great time.
I'm curious to ask you more about that transition, but first I'm maybe curious a little bit more about your art and your content. I know you were talking about it before the show. Do you have anything that you could share or tell us about?
I mean, I have some stuff, but like I said, I started on social medias like Facebook and Instagram. Starting my internet presence was really important. I think that's another reason what kind of kickstarted my partnership with Twitch is the fact that I had a following. I had not a huge following, but a decent following. So when Twitch referenced back, well, you're like, hey, can I get partnered? Hey, is this something that I can nurture here? They kind of saw that. And I think that's what helped me. But I'm a traditional artist too. So I
Okay.
live in a digital world where I just basically put forth traditional work. It's pen and ink and nothing too crazy, but like I do a lot of
Nothing
different
too
types of
crazy.
I do a lot of different types of art, and yeah, I just Hunter.
What you'll learn
No.
about Amanda quickly is that she's extremely modest. She's
Somebody,
Very.
somebody's
she's
saying in the
insanely
chat,
talented.
she's kind of a big deal. Someone's saying. in the chat,
No,
so-
no, don't listen to that. But for me, like I just wanted to, share my enjoyment with the world, and if people liked it, cool. If they didn't, cool. And it just happened that there is a collective of people that are growing that do like this stuff, and I wanted to build a Twitch community where, I gave people a home to go to, someplace safe to hang out, someplace to just chill and whatever. And in turn, I actually gave that to myself as well. So I don't.
Awesome. Well, hats off to you. That is really
you.
respectable, admirable, fantastic stuff. All right, and moving on to Ty or Tygre. Thank you for joining us, and maybe you can share with the viewers at home a bit about your background and day to day.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on the show. So, yeah, my name is Ty. I go by Tygre online, well, as my now artist name, as a singer and songwriter. I started, I was not in music or the arts at all when I was going to school. I actually got my degree in biology, health, and disease. I'd spent my summers for both through high school and college, first shadowing and interning at private practices and hospitals, and moved to but on a whim I dabbled in musical theater in college. I was going to actually get my second bachelor's at the same time, but on a whim one spring I did an audition for a really renowned studio in Manhattan, and they let me in. So I actually got my 1 degree in biology, moved to New York City without a job, without a place to stay. And I started attending this studio. And that's when I dove into like the arts, the performing arts full time. And then eventually, turns out New York City is very expensive. And I actually used my degree to work at a cancer hospital.
Wow.
Yeah, I ended up managing their like a first in human clinical trial office, phase 1 cancer drugs, and was the office admin for that team of doctors. And it was extremely rewarding. It wasn't a passion, but it was cool to be independent, to be living in New York City. And so I would go to the studio at night. I'd work to the full 9 to 5, and then by 5:30 I had to rush over to the studio, and I was there till like 10, and I did that long enough to learn everything I could. And then I started auditioning and working as an actor and musical theater artist and singer full time. And then I cut back on my hours at the hospital. I went part-time, and I basically went from the STEM field, reeled it back, and then eased into the arts. I'd always saw myself as a singer first, so once I was making enough money as a streamer on Twitch, I decided to move somewhere cheaper and focus on my singing and songwriting, which is where I stand now. Moved out of New York, went to Georgia. No more winters to deal with. And yeah, so my intention originally was never do music. I just thought it would always be a side hustle, but it just, there's something that draws you in. You just can't stay away from that passion. So yeah, it totally changed everything.
Cool. And what's your day like these days? Is it
Yeah, so I mean, my days are essentially filling with streaming. As I make my music, I'm not making money on that music now as of yet, because I've got to get it produced since I moved recently to Georgia. So this is more recent. So my income comes from streaming, so I do that as much as I can. Usually it's wake up and prepare for stream and then go live. On Monday through Friday, there's something every day. Tuesday, so Monday, Wednesday, Friday are like my typical. I do my usual music, performing arts, sometimes like a little karaoke so that the chat can get involved. Tuesday, I run a podcast with a couple vocal pedagogues who I've also worked in music professionally. And then we also stream together. We collaborate on a Dungeons and Dragons team. Actually, all 3 of us do here, and
cool.
And so that fills our days, evenings and Wednesdays. And then I stream video games on the weekends when it's like more wind down. I don't need to be hitting the the stuff so hard. And so those are what my days are filled with. And every chance I get outside of that is devoted to music and writing music. I'm working on trying to self-produce some stuff, but it's difficult without a full knowledge of production software, so I'm teaching myself that. But I'm mainly focusing on getting a big enough repertoire so that, like, for example, tomorrow I play a set for a festival, so that way I have enough to lean on when I perform live and I do charity events and live events and things like that, in-person
Cool.
events.
So you mentioned the festival a few times. Can you shout out the festival? What's going on? Is it an online thing? What is it?
Yeah, so there's a pretty big music festival that happens every year in Miami. It's called Wynwood, and so Wynwood Pride. It takes place during Pride Month. It features LGBTQIA plus, and I identify as gay, and so this is my first music festival. I got invited to represent myself, my music as an LGBT artist, and it's usually in Miami, but because of the current state of things, because of COVID, it had been moved online, and the coordinators for the event have never that's new territory for them. They're used to live performances, stages, lights, all that stuff. So they actually reached out. This is the first time they're integrating Twitch streamers to help support them, to help give them guidance from that aspect. So this is my first festival charity. There's like a slew of charities they're raising money for, a couple being, or one being like the Big Project. It's supporting the LGBT and Black Lives Matter related things. And they have a big lofty goal of 100,000 to distribute among them. But I am really excited for this first opportunity to play a set of my original music, to raise money, and do it on a platform I'm comfortable with. And I got sent a poster with my name on it, and that was cool. I've never had that happen before, so that was fun. But that's happening tomorrow. It's like all evening. Like I think it goes from like 5 to 2 a.m. It's just artists at their artists. It's gonna be cool.
Wow, that's very cool. Well, congrats on being involved with something like that. That sounds amazing.
Thank you.
I got to apologize, guys. It looks like I got some stream health issues.
Okay.
Error. YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. Open widget.
I'm seeing some jittery.
Yeah, on your side, does it look like...
Yeah, I have it open muted.
I have it open and muted. It just looks laggy, like it's getting every other frame.
Continue and see if something improves there. I wonder if it's on my side. But there was a couple things in there that I was hoping to maybe throw into discussion. And I think the first one that really is boggling my mind is that this is a way... not maybe a way to make a living, but it definitely can be a way to make a living. And it sounds like there's maybe people at kind of like various stages of that journey. And so I'd maybe like to start with Jordan and just ask you outright plainly, are you going to try and make a living as a Twitch streamer? What do you think?
For myself, probably not.
Okay.
And it's nothing, it's just, I don't know. I suppose I never had really considered it to be like a thing that'll happen. Simply because it's very difficult to get to that step, and I have a lot of other stuff going on, and I know that you need to invest a lot of time, and I find it difficult myself to kind of put in that effort, especially when you don't see the growth, and it can be disheartening and stuff like that. So it's a lot to take out of you. So I kind of go into it with the idea of just enjoying it. Just taking it for as it is. If it grows to something bigger than it is right now, that's perfect. But
cool.
Aim for making the best content you can, not necessarily to see the best growth and to make a living off of this sort of thing. At least for me, like I'm newer than both of them for these for streaming in general. So I'm like the streaming baby. I mean, I have lots of experience with YouTube, but for streaming, I only started streaming like a few months ago. So.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Because you've given me some advice, and based on that advice, I
Well,
I would have guessed you've been at it for ages.
you learn a lot very quickly because you have to learn a lot very quickly too, between like YouTube and other social media platforms, and how to kind of not game the system, but how to be able to survive on Twitch. And although I haven't been streaming on my own for very long, I've been doing Dungeons and Dragons streams on my friend Mason's channel for about over a year now, like about a year and a half, I would say. So I do still have that experience. It's just not on my own stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cool. And then I guess, you know, on the flip side, it sounds like Amanda and Ty have experienced maybe a little more of that transition. What do you guys you know, maybe have to share with the viewers at home about that transition? It sounds like it might be a bit of a difficult one. I remember you guys were talking about juggling and maybe some days where you were trying to balance a regular or more traditional career role and then making that move to Switch. Like, how did you find that?
Oh, you can take it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. So it's really difficult. First mentally, because I went into it not thinking I was going to make a living, not thinking it was going to go anywhere. And I started out doing music, and on a platform by the time I got in, because I've been doing it for about a year and a half now. By the time I got into it, it was pretty saturated. I mean, it was kind of like old news in terms of like social media territory, because, you know, by that point, there's a lot of competition. But
Yeah.
I went into it because I love performing. I love performing live. It was, you know, for me, it was easy to do, as simple as like I cam for nothing, and been studying, like personally studying, like I need to do something with this knowledge. I was working at the office, and I was, but between all that, auditioning full time. And so like, I just wanted to sing and have a good time online. I have a lot of friends online, so why not? And then eventually people started coming around, which is very shocking at first. There's definitely an air of imposter syndrome, because you don't feel like, because that territory, it's such a niche thing, and it's even harder to like get it to work. And so like you roll with it. You go into it, and the best thing you can do is go into it with the intention that it's not really going to go anywhere, that you do it for you, that it's just fun to perform, and if somebody comes, they come. If they don't, then that's still okay. You're still, you know, it's not a big deal. And you know, when I would perform at like a jazz lounge and I was singing a set there, you know, there's like in New York, I mean, there's, you know, 20 or so people sitting at the bar, sitting at tables, just got you in the background. So when I started hitting those numbers, and then higher than that on Twitch, that's how I started thinking about it. It was like I was fighting so hard in New York City to get an audience that would pay attention to me this big, you know? And so like a 50-person theater in New York is near like you have to work like decades to get something that big, to be able to like be main stage with something that big. So Twitch allowed me to do that, and show off my skills directly and be able to do that to an audience of that caliber. And that's what it, like, to keep doing it. And then it then becomes the mental part of like, what part of my life do I start to cut back on so I can do this more? Because the more you lean into it, hopefully the more you can rely on it financially. But it's so fickle. Social media, I mean, it all is. We were talking about it in our pre-interview yesterday, that it fluctuates depending, I mean, on a whim. It's cyclical. It, you know, you have no idea why. Maybe it's because everybody goes back to school and your viewership is because it's younger crowd and they all went back to school, or you know, people watch more on the weekends because they don't have to work, and so maybe that's better. But you know, it was a hard transition, because I did have a secure job at a hospital, healthcare, or like I had a healthcare plan, 401k, like that sort of stuff. And I'd always saw myself becoming an artist full time. And I think that this was the best middle point, because my goal isn't to be a Twitch streamer forever full time. It is to be a singer songwriter full time with albums, playing live shows, and Twitch has been like a nice stepping stone. It's like been this, it fulfills me in that similar way of like performing and bettering myself, getting better at keyboard, and then that way I can keep writing music and produce it, and have an audience that's like hungry and ready for what I provide. So once I saw it from that direction of like, no, this is the path that I've wanted for a very long time, I had no choice but to lean in. And you cut back on if you can cut back on hours, or maybe it's usually spending, you know, you stop having so much expendable cash to buy stuff. You just start being much more frugal, so that way you can roll with like the fickleness of the platform. So
Totally.
Yeah, so it's a tough transition. It's a really tough thing, and one month you do great, one month you don't, and so it's hit or miss sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Amanda, I know I remember in the chat the other day you talked about leaning into it, committing to it, and then invariably certain things happen, and maybe at certain times in your life you have to lean out of it, and like maybe can you share with our viewers a little bit of information about that? And I know you've probably got quite a following too. Like, how does that feel when you see the numbers moving around like that?
So for me, Twitch, like if I were to say, oh, like how do you describe your job? Like how is this your income? You know, when you introduce yourself as a Twitch streamer, when you try and go get a car, when you try and get, because people don't even know what Twitch is, and then Twitch is a passive income.
Yeah.
So passive income is constantly, like Ty touched upon, it's constantly fluctuating. But I had a passive income job prior. So for me, it was very natural and not as jarring when you make, let's say you make $500 one month and then next month you make $100, if that. Like sometimes you make 30, you know what I mean? And then you have to, or like whenever I have a good month, I anticipate a bad month to follow because of the people who are investing in you. They cannot, and realistically they cannot invest in you that way every single month, every single week. So when people are buying my originals or people are it's very hard to expect that to happen again and again and again. And though it does tend to happen, it's something you can't depend on because it can be gone like that. None of this is guaranteed. You don't get a paycheck from a company. Decide what you get paid. And if they want you to have a raise, you get the raise for that day. If you don't, you don't. We don't have dental. We don't have vacation time. We don't have all these things. We don't have a 401k. These are all things that people forget as human beings, that when they're like, whoa, someone just, you had 800, have no money. Well, yeah, because I had 800 yesterday, but did you realize I just dropped down? And now, right, because of that, I'm taking the funds from this month and applying them to next month and making sure that I'm covering my tail in other ways, So even when you do have a big day and it's put out there and people see that, they forget that you do have a rent bill, you do have electric bills, you do have all the bills that they have. So, and it's like, oh, well, you just got this amount of money, and it's like, and it's gone, So, but for me, I wouldn't say so much that Twitch is my sole income, or like it's a big chunk for sure. I'm not gonna take that away from anything, but for me, it's a tool for me to make more money off of my other guys, and it's a point for my viewership to kind of come in and see what I'm producing. So if someone doesn't want to subscribe to me, and if you guys don't know, on Twitch you subscribe kind of much like a Netflix subscription, where someone can pay X amount of dollars. There's different tiers to show support, and then you get a cut. And you don't get 100%. A lot of people get confused. They think you get 100% of it. Even that's a little bit of a misconception. But you get this cut, and but for me, like I said, I use this as a tool. Like someone comes